So you guys know the smug guy. His name is the Daily Wire third stringer. He's pretty smug and unbearable and just totally annoying, like relentlessly annoying. He is. By the way, my understanding of it, he's a failed actor. Someone please let me know about that. I don't know how to really fully check on that, but if someone could do like some kind of a mini investigation on that and come back to me, that'd be really interesting stuff, because we already know that Dave Rubin is a failed comedian, like unbelievably failed comedian, a really failed comedian significantly. We know Steven Crowder's a failed comedian. There's a lot of them on the right, and there's some on the left as well. But make sure to let me know about that. But you guys know about Nancy Pelosi and her run for speakership. Now, there's been a lot of talk going on, and we've covered a bunch of it, because recall that Whoopi Goldberg over on The View was vouching for her, saying about you guys are being a bunch of ageists, you know, you're being against her simply for her age, which is totally wrong. Of course, we support Bernie Sanders, who is quite an elderly person, yet very healthy, by the way. Don't get it twisted. He's a very healthy guy. And so, of course, that is totally false. The reason why we don't support Nancy Pelosi is not because of her age or because of her seniority in office, but it's because she's become out of touch and we disagree with her on policy positions. That's a simple reason for it. And we saw a clip of Marcia Fudge talking about how, you know, the Browns got a new head coach and they got a win, which is huge for Cleveland, because, you know, one win is a lot for them. I mean, that's like almost like a whole season's worth of wins, right? But the point here being, there's been a lot of talk about this because Nancy Pelosi really sucks pretty bad. She's horrible. She's just so out of touch with the American people, and it pisses me off that this old hag is going to become the speaker again. It's like, just stop. Like, you're out of touch with the American people. Leave us alone. Quit. Nobody likes you except for hillbots on Twitter who go, "Oh, she's an old woman, so I support her." Haha. Like, stop. Just stop it. Let it go. We don't like you anymore. You suck really bad. So, getting on with the clip here. We got Daily Wire third stringer. He's going to be giving his thoughts on Nancy Pelosi's run. And he's going to be right on some things and also wrong on some things.
We are way better off with Nancy Pelosi as the speaker. She is a superb speaker for Republicans. We have spent zillions of dollars vilifying this woman. Not that we really needed to. She's done a good job of it herself. She's a weak adversary. I mean, she's a good adversary, but she's a weak leader, as she doesn't have a ton of support within her own party. The only reason she didn't get thrown out is she's still a pretty good fundraiser and can make it rain. But she's very left-wing. She and Ocasio-Cortez are out left-winging themselves. Ocasio-Cortez invaded Nancy's office. Nancy said, "Bring them on. I encourage everyone to participate in democracy." They're all very far left, but she is very good, and she is the most likely speaker to sow discord within the Democrat Party. There are stronger, younger candidates who could take it over, but she is, and she's a shrewd politician. So I think it really worked out as well as it can be, and we've got to keep the cameras on her, and we have to keep the cameras on her opponents, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because before, you got a great show with Trump. Before, you got a pretty good TV show, but now you got Trump, you've got the adversary, and you've got even more drama because the adversary has an adversary within her own party. What is this now? Season 3? Season 3 is going to be the best one yet.
So if you can't already tell, because I've already done a talk about Tommy Lahren thoughts on Nancy Pelosi, I'm generally speaking in agreement with conservatives. This is the one of the few issues, which there are some things like sometimes foreign intervention, but where conservatives and progressives, I'm talking progressives specifically, not just the left in general or including the libcucks like, you know, Nancy Pelosi supporters, but, you know, the Bernie crats, we can come together and say, yeah, Nancy Pelosi sucks. But as you just saw from the Daily Wire third stringer, this is not just the Daily Wire third stringer's opinion. This is also Tommy Lahren. This is across the board conservative. Guys, Donald Trump endorsed her. What I don't understand is how the Democratic Party doesn't come together and say, that's probably a really bad sign. And that's probably a good sign to tell us that, hey, you know, Nancy Pelosi, we probably shouldn't run her, because if the Republicans, remember, Trump said that I'll get her enough votes. he said something like, I'll make sure that she gets enough votes, basically saying, if you're in a deficit and you need help, I'll literally lobby Republican votes to vote you in. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that is? And apparently, I just saw this from the Humanist Report. He posted a video showing a clip of where Nancy Pelosi said, we shouldn't have our opposition picking our leaders. Stick by your own word. Now, I don't even think that was very long ago, right? I forgot how long ago it was, but it's unbelievably hilarious stuff from Nancy Pelosi. And unfortunately, yes, she will be a gift to the right wing because she's going to be she's going to be terribly inefficient because everyone hates Nancy Pelosi. The progressives hate Nancy Pelosi. The conservatives hate Nancy Pelosi's guts. And on top of that, she's super centrist, and she keeps the ideology of holding hands that Barack Obama had, which was a total catastrophic failure on his part. Now, the issue is, first of all, the Daily Wire third stringer gets wrong that, the reason why she won is because she's a fundraiser. Why she's the only one running. I actually don't remember what exactly he said, whether it was she's the only one running or she's going to win because of that. But the real reason she's going to win and that there's no one opposing her is because there's just simply no solid person who wants to, primary her, essentially. Doesn't look like Marcia Fudge wants to do it. Doesn't look like Barbara Lee wants to do it. And it just looks like no one wants to do it. The other thing that the Daily Wire third stringer gets wrong, he says that Nancy Pelosi and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are trying to out-left each other. This is a great way to find out if someone knows what they're talking about in terms of politics. Can they differentiate the basics between the left? That's a really good test. Ask them how much further left AOC is from Nancy Pelosi, because they're not even close. Nancy Pelosi does not support free college. She does not support Medicare for all. I remember watching a town hall where she was asked that question, and she goes, every state can get a public option. Do you have any idea how long it would take to get every goddamn state a public option? What a waste of time. What a brutal waste of time that is. Such a waste of time. I can't even fathom how dumb of an idea that is. So no, AOC and Nancy Pelosi aren't out-lefting each other. Nancy Pelosi's not even close to AOC. That's part of the reason why Nancy Pelosi's going to suck. Because when she goes to the negotiating table, we're not going to start with Medicare for all and then end up with the Medicaid expansion. You're going to start at a public option and you're going to end up with nothing. That's what's going to happen. And that's the key problem with this holding hands nonsense that is done, this idea of holding hands with the Republicans. It's what Obama tried to do. It failed massively. So, part of it, he was right. But again, the Daily Wire third stringer is not much of a bright guy. So, of course, he has to mess some stuff up. Now, we're going to look at another clip from the Daily Wire third stringer. For some reason, there are a bunch of short clips. I don't know why, but I love laughing at them. He's going to be talking about toxic masculinity here. So, not really much substance going on here.
So it's not a terrible thing to talk about manliness. I'm just a little reluctant to do it, especially now when we live in a culture where there is nothing more taboo than talking about manliness. Social science, professors, researchers, they constantly tell us that masculinity is toxic. There is such a thing as toxic masculinity. There was a study that came out just today from the University of Idaho that described techno masculinity. You can imagine all these masculine men sitting in basements playing video games. I think techno masculinity means boys who are good at using computers. But this is a big scary word now that social scientists are trying to use to instill fear in us. Furthermore, when you look around certain campuses, you look around both men and women, you will see T-shirts that have a slogan sometimes. It says, "The future is female," which is a slogan that I don't really understand what it means. As far as I know, it's still biologically impossible that the future would be exclusively female, and yet you see it. You see these kinds of modern feminist slogans all the time. When you look at intersectional left-wing hierarchies, if you are a man, you are still sitting at the top of the oppression pyramid. And if you are a man who thinks that he is a man, or who still wants to be a man, you are at the topmost point of them all.
Yeah, no, so this is a perfect example of just a total, bunk issue. Like, is that really what is important right now as to what's going on? First of all, the thing of toxic masculinity, like, does it exist? Sure, but like, have you ever seen toxic masculinity, quote unquote, toxic masculinity? Because personally, I haven't seen an example of that to where you'd be like, oh, what's toxic masculinity? Oh, here's an example. I can't do that because I don't know of any situation in which that's the case. Not in any way, shape, or form at all, even slightly. There's just no way. It's impossible for me. I can't think of anything. So it's really not even something that flies on my radar, period. But is this really what is important to our times right now? Like, is that really the pressing issue of our time? This so-called oppression hierarchy, which it does exist, by the way, but is that really the issues you're looking towards? Like, that's also another test, like I talked about earlier. Like, are you, the question being, are you a serious person? And that are you actually talking about substance? Because when I talk about these D-bags, whether it be Dave Rubin, not, saying we need a blue dog Democrat, and then I have to explain that, no, most people support Medicare for all, and so going further right rather than left from Hillary Clinton, which is almost impossible because Hillary Clinton's barely left of center. These all come down to talking about policy positions, but this is something that's just sort of random, and it's almost like a filler issue. And overall, I mean, there's no other way to categorize this but just a sad joke, period. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. But the Daily Wire third stringer, clearly not very bright. Again, he's also a smug D-bag, like massive smug D-bag, so keep that in mind as well. But, he got some things right about Pelosi and then just totally went off the rails because that's what the Daily Wire third stringer does. And then, and then he's talking about masculinity. Oh, I think the title of the video, by the way, was something like "It's taboo to talk about masculinity." It's just such a non-issue, and it's so embarrassing to watch.